Imagine a world where the word Netflix never meant streaming. No red N, no autoplay countdown, no Friday night binges that swallow a whole season in one sitting. Imagine instead that the biggest name in home entertainment remained the one that ruled the 1990s. A bright blue storefront, a membership card on your keychain, and the smell of plastic DVD cases. Blockbuster. Now stretch that picture a little further. Imagine that when Netflix's founders flew to Dallas in 2000 to pitch themselves to Blockbuster for $50 million. The Blockbuster CEO didn't laugh. He shook hands. The deal closed, and from that moment on, Netflix became the digital arm of a rental empire that already owned Friday night. That's the alternate timeline we're going to step into. But to understand how dramatically it could have bent the world, we need to remember what Blockbuster really was, and what Netflix almost wasn't. At the turn of the millennium, Blockbuster wasn't just a video store. It was a weekly ritual, more than 9,000 locations worldwide. The company's business model was simple. Make new releases easy to find, keep you coming back with memberships, and, this is the dark part, monetize lateness. Late fees weren't an accident. They were a revenue pillar worth hundreds of millions per year. There were also long-term deals with major studios designed to make sure Blockbuster got titles during the most profitable window and kept margins high. Netflix, by contrast, was a small, struggling upstart. A mail-based DVD subscription that looked quaint next to a store where you could browse and walk out with something tonight. In 2000, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph proposed the future. Let Netflix run Blockbuster's online business. Blockbuster would keep stores humming. Netflix would build the digital rails. The answer was a smirk and a pass. 7 years later, it launched streaming. A few years after that, it did the unthinkable. It became a studio. But what if that meeting had gone the other way? What if Blockbuster bought Netflix? Let's open the door to that alternate reality. In our first branch, the optimistic one, Blockbuster buys Netflix and keeps the startup's brain intact. Reed Hastings doesn't vanish into a corporate org chart. He's given autonomy and budget. Netflix becomes Blockbuster Online by branding. But internally, the cultural firewall holds. Mail subscriptions scale faster because Blockbuster adds millions of existing members overnight. A company can pair what you rent in-store with what you watch at home. They know your Friday habits, your Tuesday night quick picks, your summer blockbusters. By 2005, Blockbuster uses that data to roll out a hybrid pass. Unlimited online DVDs, optional in-store swaps, early access coupons. The clerk who recommended comedies last month now signs you up for Blockbuster Online with a QR code by the register. This is where Blockbuster's dark history flips from anchor to engine. Late fees, retail leases, windowed studio deals could have strangled streaming. In this better branch, leadership does the hard thing. Retail stores transform into acquisition hubs. Try a month free right here at the counter. Trade your discs for points. Scan a shelf to add to your online queue. The store becomes a billboard, a help desk, and a conversion machine. Disney still experiments with streaming, but instead of ripping its catalog from a dominant Netflix, it negotiates one of those windowed deals Blockbuster was famous for. Hollywood's power map tilts, too. In our reality, Netflix remade the industry by financing originals and releasing entire seasons at once. Blockbuster's DNA is distribution and curation, not creation. It cozies up to studios with exclusivity windows. Creative risk is outsourced to the same Hollywood ecosystem that produced the DVD era. You still get great shows, but the platform as studio revolution arrives years later. Weekly releases remain the norm. The cliffhanger Friday night is alive and well. Culture shifts with it. No Netflix and chill as a meme. No global weekend where everyone watches the same season in 48 hours. Blockbuster buys Netflix, but doesn't understand it. The brand insists on a full rebrand, smothering the scrappy startup identity under corporate blue. Digital is treated as a channel, not the future. Late fees stay because they're reliable. Stores keep their prime real estate footprints because they signal strength. Studio deals protect today's revenue at the expense of tomorrow's habits. In this branch, the very things that made Blockbuster big become the reasons it can't pivot. When streaming becomes possible, legal teams and studio partners push for heavy windowing and limits. The streaming app exists, a complement to stores, not a replacement. Meanwhile, if Blockbuster buys Netflix and then lets the Netflix mind keep steering, the company can leap across its own shadow. If it buys Netflix and tries to graft it into an old tree, the new growth dies. Leaders to protect short-term profits over digital bets. In the pessimistic branch, those instincts win, and streaming's golden age gets delayed. By 2010, you walk into a Blockbuster that's half showroom, half studio. Staff curate Friday night packs in-store while your phone's app recommends a film at home. Both flows feed one subscription. Streaming feels like a perpetual pilot. The company spends more on signage than software. By the time an all-digital competitor gets product-market fit, Blockbuster's user experience is years behind. Disney's streaming move is slower and more negotiated, not a dramatic catalog pull. Cable bundles live longer. In our world, streamers aggressively chase live sports to differentiate. In the Blockbuster timeline, traditional broadcasters retain more leverage for longer because no single streaming platform has the cultural heat to force an industry shift. And then there's the platform we're on right now. A slower shift to streaming means creators and media companies stay attached to old models longer. YouTube still wins on user-generated content, but it competes with a hybrid giant that owns both the living room and the corner store. Netflix wasn't just a service, it was a shared culture. In the Blockbuster timeline, you still stream, but slower and with stricter windows. Innovation can serve the viewer or the vendor. So which branch is more likely? The truth probably sits between them. Blockbuster had advantages no startup could match. Brand trust, distribution, studio relationships. If its leaders bought Netflix and protected its startup soul, the blue giant could have become the streaming on-ramp for hundreds of millions of people years earlier than we saw. If they suffocated it, the world would have waited longer for on-demand culture to fully bloom. We might have had a blue incumbent negotiating old rules into a digital future. And maybe, just maybe, one more thing changes: the story we tell ourselves about technology. In our reality, the Netflix saga is a parable about underdogs, the scrappy startup outsmarting the sleeping giant. In the Blockbuster timeline, the moral would be different. It would be about incumbents learning to cannibalize their own cash cows before someone else does. It would teach a generation of CEOs that the only way to keep Friday night is to reinvent it on Wednesday. One handshake could have rewritten how we watch, what we talk about, and which companies sit at the top of the culture. Instead, Blockbuster blinked, Netflix bet on streaming, and the rest of us learned to live with, "Are you still watching?" Would the world be better or worse if Blockbuster had bought Netflix? Would you trade the adrenaline of a global binge for the comfort of a weekly ritual and a store you could still visit? Tell us what you think. Your answer might decide which branch of the story you wish we lived in.